Hello, welcome to my channel. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I love my Paul Rubens watercolor sets that I have. I currently have the Paul Rubens Opera neon set that looks like this. Comes in tubes. Very wonderful paints. And I have this Paul Rubens glitter set of 24, which is very pretty as well. So I was quite excited when they contacted me and asked if I would like to review their new acrylic paints. It's a set of 24. So I said yes. So I thought we could play with these on the jelly plate. I'm going to just unpack them and swatch them out first, and then we'll get to playing. So disclaimer, this was sent to me for free, but I'm going to give you my honest opinion of them on the jelly plate, maybe do some other painting with it, and we'll have some fun. My completed swatches, and I do like how vibrant the colors are. I feel like it's a pretty good range. My only complaints are really that I feel like these two colors are super similar, the Viridian and the Phthalo Green, and I thought, well, maybe I swatched the same color twice, so I redid it here, and no, so they're very similar. The other thing I wanted to note is that I find this cap misleading, the yellow deep, that's it here, versus the yellow ochre. So that one's, you know, quite good. I find this one is a little misleading. It's a good color, like I like the color, but it just, I don't like that. So one thing I want to mention is I swatched these on some swatch sheets that I downloaded from PM Artist Studios, where it has a gradation of black to gray and white, so you can see how transparent the paints are. So obviously the black is very opaque. The white, not as opaque as I might like it, but you know, you could add layers to it. So, and there's nothing wrong with paints being transparent. You just need to know that before you use them. The swatches that I did, unfortunately, I printed this sheet onto a label, this label, which didn't really fit the sheet. So this one I printed on just a full sticker sheet, so that'll be easy to use in the future. And what you can do is you can just take these and you can stick them right to your tube, so that you can see at a glance, you know, what the actual color is, especially for like this yellow deep. And then you can also see how transparent or opaque it is. So when you have a brand like Artist Loft and Liquitex, they have a see-through, like a clear packaging, so you can see the color. And they also provide information about the opacity. So this is opaque, so that's helpful. Golden is a very high-end brand, and they have opacity information. They've already pre-swatched here, so you can see this is opaque. There's actually black lines under there. So this is just a helpful tip if you want to swatch your paints. I'm not going to bother putting this in a book because I wouldn't really refer to it, but for these paints, because they are not in clear packaging, I think this is going to work out really well. So I'm going to go ahead and attach these. I'm going to have posted up in the corner how I did the swatching, just on one of them. I didn't show you the whole thing, but I just used very little bit of paint, and then whatever was left over, I just kind of scribbled into my desk journal. And this is a good place for leftover paints. I just sort of I just throw leftover bits in here. That's a tip from D.D. Willingham. I do like how vibrant the paints are. And I noticed that they don't have a huge shine to them. So I'm just wondering if, for mixed media, if they would take colored pencils. If you could use colored pencils, for example. There's a white. So yeah, you could use colored pencils with them. Which is handy for mixed media. So I'll work on this off camera, and I'll show you at the end what this turns into. We'll make it into something. I might do maybe another painting like a more traditional painting. But right now I'm going to focus on using these paints on the jelly plate right after I stick all these little labels on. So I've got my 8x10 jelly plate out, and I'm using these masks from PM Artist Studios. The designer of these masks is Rhonda Donna, and I haven't used them yet, but I've been meaning to, and I thought it'd be cool to do sort of like a wood theme background. So I'm using this wood grainer that I got at Michael's years ago. This paint is good on the jelly plate. It does dry a little bit fast, so you have to kind of work quickly if you're going to use it on the jelly plate. And I'm just layering a few more colors over top of the stencils to give it a bit more of a dimension. If you watch PM Artist Studios, you'll see Patricia do this quite frequently. She'll add a few different colors before she actually lifts up her stencil or her mask, and it gives a really cool outline to the openings. So here I'm just trying to overlay it to match to get more onto that paper. So it's very distressed looking, which I don't mind. And I'm just adding a little bit more yellow to the side. And this is a clay texture tool, also from Michael's. Now I'm lifting up the stencils. There's lots of paint under there that's still wet, so I use my brayer to make an impression onto my paper, which is just copy paper. So I'm gonna let that sit and dry, and meanwhile I'm pulling out my 5x7 plate, and I'm using some magenta and the deep purple. And I decided to do an ombre, kind of last minute. That's why the one was horizontal, one was vertical. Anyhow, so these are strips from PM Artist Studios. I think Loops and Puzzle, I don't know, don't quote me on that. Go check out their website, they've got lots of cool stencils. So again, I'm doing that technique where you add multiple colors and pull that to get a variation in the outlines of the stencil. And the paint was a little sticky on the stencils, especially like new stencils, so it was tending to pull the stencil up. I noticed the paint it's a nice consistency. It's a little bit thicker than some of the other paints that I use on the jelly plate. I think it's more like a soft body, but I really like how vibrant the paints are. So I take the stencils off and I try to brayer it off the painty part onto this loose leaf paper. And the second one, it was a bit dry already, so nothing came off. So I'm pulling back the tiki one, and we're gonna add some blue and some green, or I think that might be the phthalo green. And I don't recall which blue it was. I think it was the cerulean blue. And we're doing an ombre with this, and I kept the screenshot pretty wide to show you the brayer off paper. I ended up being quite happy with that paper. So I got the linen finish ivory paper on there on the gel plate, and I rub it, I let it set for a while, sort of let it dry and adhere to the plate. We're back to the 5x7, and I pick it up with a lemon yellow color because I want some real contrast, and I think the yellow will play nice with the magenta and the blues on there. I think I brayered off a bit too much, but I do like my brayer off paper. See how bright and vibrant that is. These paints seem to be quite pigmented. So we're pulling that off, and I'm very happy with that. It's in your face. I mean, you want to use parts of it as a trim. Here we're back, they're showing off that brayer paper. Here we're back at the tiki print, and we're pulling it off. And it's a bit dark where the phthalo green is, but I do like it. I could see cutting out those different symbols or tiki masks and using them in something. So that was a fun print. I was pretty happy with that, even if it was a bit on the dark side. I'm cleaning all that off, and I thought now that my plate's warmed up, we'll do a magazine transfer to see if this paint works for it. It worked pretty good. You'll see in a moment. It works better on the face than on the donuts. I'll explain that in a moment. If you want more info on magazine transfers, I do have a video about it if you want to check it out. So my phone died just before I pulled off that this piece here. So this did work. It's a little bubbly. This part here didn't work, I think, because this magazine I haven't used, I don't think, on the jelly plate to do a transfer before. So I think it's more the magazine. So I thought we could maybe add some words here. For some reason, I decided to use words from the same magazine as the donut, so it doesn't work, but that's okay. I will do it a second time with some other words that do work. Let's try this one. Just gonna put that so I know how big to make it. I have to say that these would make great frames for art journaling. So I decided to add the stencil to provide a little bit more action up in that corner. I'm using the deep purple. I didn't quite put enough on there, so I ended up having to put quite a bit more. If you're brayering over stencil, you do tend to have to use a little bit more. So that was, you know, again, user error. But in the end, I do like how this looks. I turn it over and I press it down so the paint transfers to the bottom. And I want to do an ombre to pick it up, so I decide on using the magenta and the lemon yellow for that. So I'm trying to work on the technique that P shows, where you put one of the paints for the ombre on one side and the other on the opposite side. And then you grab them that way. I think I have to put a bit more. So I want to make sure I have enough paint coverage. All right, let's try it. So it was going well until right about here, when I should have continued all the way across to the right, because I do end up having some brayer marks on the magenta part. So I definitely need more practice using my big roller. I let that sit for a while to dry, and here I'm pulling off the print. So here's the magazine transfer. I wasn't very smooth with my brayer. That wasn't the paint fault. I probably should have used a lighter color on the top part of this. It kind of got a bit dark. So here's the jelly prints I made. And it is quite vibrant. I do like that. I don't know if this size of tube is really well spent on a jelly plate, because that takes a lot of paint. So I did some other things to test out the paints that I think were better use. So this is the journal page I ended up finishing. So it's great for mixed media. The colors are very vibrant, lovely to use. They blend well. This was just kind of, I just slapped on the paint and some words. I had these trees there before. I didn't know what this page was going to be, but it is very good for that. This is an example of how vibrant they are. So that's a brayer off paper, which I think would be great. So I also did a traditional acrylic painting. I followed a tutorial by Kathy Arbor. I did this sweet little bunny winter scene. And here, I don't know if you can see it, but I did use some colored pencils, just a little bit. It does work. So these paints do work for mixed media. This painting was done just with these 5 colors here. Kathy Arbor does use some glazing medium when she does her tutorial, so I did use that to help blend things. But the paints do blend very well. And she used black gesso. I'm running out of black gesso, so I used just this craft paint as the base. And then the stars, I just used some white craft paint to water down and then do some splatters. I also used a few Posca paint pens for this. And like I mentioned, I used some colored pencils. So for example, like to just highlight this here, you could just add a little bit The other thing I'll mention is that on the website, well, not the website, but the Amazon listing, I did find what's listed on the back of the box. I did find it in English. So yes, those are actually the pigment numbers. And they also list the permanence here. So you can see they're quite permanent, like they seem to be rated well for permanence. So these would be good for students or you know, professionals, I think, as well. At the time of filming this video, the pricing for these paints was $21.98 in the US on Amazon. Amazon Canada had it listed at $51.98. And just before I posted this video, Paul Rubens let me know that they are offering a discount to Canada Amazon of 50% using a coupon code that you'll find below. And this coupon is only good from February 6th to February 12th, 2023. And they're also going to give the US Amazon a 30% off these paints, and you don't need a coupon code for that. It will be in Amazon, and that's for 5 days only. So from February 6th to, I believe, the 10th. So thank you, Paul Rubens. That's very exciting. And then in the UK, for example, the pricing is $30 or $29.99. So I think it's a good set of paints. Depends on your budget. Depends on your level and how much paint you need. I did enjoy it for the jelly printing. However, I felt like this might be a better set with its vibrancy to use in mixed media or acrylic painting, because it's a little bit thick, which is fine for jelly printing, but I just think it's going to go further. You'll get more bang for your buck doing these other types of artwork. All in all, I really enjoyed using these paints. They were very fun and so vibrant. I hope you enjoyed this video and you have a great week, a great day. Thanks for watching.